LiveCycle 201 class. Today we're going to talk about radio buttons. So I have LiveCycle AEM Designer open. I'm going to open up my template that we created in the 101 class, and I'm going to start by putting my header and footer objects on the design page, and then I'm going to start dragging on some radio buttons. That's one of the objects in the standard object library. So a radio button is kind of like a checkbox, but the difference being the checkbox stands alone and a radio button cannot. A radio button must be grouped with another radio button so that you have options. In other words, the user has a choice between multiple options. And as you see me dragging on these radio buttons, what's created in the hierarchy over here is what's known as a radio button list. And so I'm going to drag 3 or 4 of these on here. Here's a 5th one. And now I have this group of 5 radio buttons. And I'm going to rename this radio button list RBL numbers. And then I'm going to go and get a numeric field and put it right here, change the font size to about 28, something really big. And this is just going to be a little script we're going to do. We're going to create a script that whatever choice the end user makes of the radio button list becomes the value of this number field here. And that's going to be our simple script. I'm going to call this txt number. So let's show you some attributes of radio button lists. So radio button lists have members or children. So the parent object is RBL numbers and all the child objects are RB1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then under here, under the object, if you have the radio button list highlighted, you have items. If you just have one of these items highlighted, it's still giving you the radio button list attributes. Also, since I've actually stopped dragging radio button objects onto the design page, and I drug this number field out here, then I go back to drag another radio button, it's going to start creating a new list. I only want one for this example. So here's our number field, and here's our radio button list. And so each radio button has a caption, and I'm going to change these captions to reflect the actual values they're going to have. But don't get confused between caption and value. So I'm setting the captions right now, and that's what the end user sees here in the actual form. But each radio button also has a numeric value because I have this specify item values checked, and it's checked by default. If I unchecked it, there would be no value or item, only a caption. But I want, for scripting purposes, I want these values here. But I don't have to name this caption exactly the value name. I could actually make a numerical name. Like this. And so now under this binding subtab I have the value of each radio button, and then I have the item's caption here grayed out. So I can change the caption here under the field tab, and I can change the object's value under the binding tab. And so now I'm going to write a little short script to make whatever the choice the end user makes here in the radio button list the value of this field here. So what I want to do is I want to highlight RBL numbers. I want to open up the script editor, and I want to be working inside of just RBL numbers. I don't want my script to exist inside of one of the individual radio buttons. I want the whole list to contain the script because I want the click event of any of these radio buttons individually to trigger the script. And so here's going to be the simple script. txt number dot raw value equals this dot raw value. And all I'm saying is txt number, meaning this field right here, its raw value, meaning its field value, is going to be set equal to this dot raw value, meaning the actual value of the radio button list when the click happens. Let's check the syntax for errors. There's no errors. This is a very simple script. Let's hide the script editor and let's preview. So as we choose the number, the field below changes to the value of whatever radio we've chosen. Now, some other things you can think about. You don't have to make your list vertical. You can make your list horizontal. You can change the size of the actual radios, making them bigger or smaller. You can make them overlap each other. You can put them in a flowed form. These are just as versatile as any other form fields. You can select all of them, change their font size. You can change the size of the actual radio itself. And you can change the button style. So the main difference between this and a checkbox is if you put multiple checkboxes on a form, you could, through scripting, get the same effect. But you would have to build into the script exclusivity. In other words, when this first checkbox was checked, you would have to tell the form by scripting that these three should be unchecked at that time. And that's just difficult. Using radios saves you from having to think through that kind of script and that kind of complexity. Radio buttons are by their nature exclusive. It's an exclusion list. That's what radio buttons are called in some other software environments. Now we can also use our previously scripted hide show. We could say if this .rawValue is greater than or equal to 3, label TTT footer dot presence equals hidden. In other words, we're saying if we choose 1 or 2, just do the number, but if we choose 3, 4, or 5, hide the this bottom label down here, this footer. Let's try that now. Okay, there's 1 and 2, and now when we get to 3, it disappears. 4 and 5. Now, since it doesn't reappear when we go back to 2 and 1 because we didn't put any kind of indication on our script to make it visible again, if we wanted that effect, we would have to do that programmatically up here. We would have to say something like else label TTT footer dot presence equals visible. Check our syntax. No red bars. Save our form and let's preview again. Now it comes back. So that's just a simple application of scripting and using radio buttons to affect change, affect dynamic qualities of your form. Of course, the applications of this is almost limitless in a form. You could have some multiple choice questions and use radio buttons to be the answer and then key that to some kind of script that checked the answer and made decisions based on that. You could do all kinds of things. Very versatile. Okay, well, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please continue on and watch the next video, which will be on drop-down boxes. And I hope you're learning a lot. Leave your comments if you are, or your questions if you're having trouble in the comment section, and I'll do my best to answer them. See you next time.